Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I like to discuss the latest report on a poll showing that a majority of people want the UK to forge a closer relationship with the EU, as the British public are seemingly getting increasingly tired of the ideological nonsense that has only, in reality, made their lives harder. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel. So I think I'm going to discuss Brexit from maybe a few different angles this week. But first up, a new poll on our relationship with the wider world, I suppose. In the reports in the Observer this weekend, there are a couple of results which stood out for me. The first was to note that 53%, see, that's one more than 52%, so it must be a massive majority. 53% think we should have a closer relationship with the EU. Now, it is worth bearing in mind, being serious, that 37% want it to either remain about the same or be even more distant. So it's not exactly a critical mass of the population crying out for more sensible relations. Although, as I said, in terms of Brexit percentages, it's a massive majority, a massive will of the people. It's the will of the people plus an extra percent. But I am actually less concerned about the significant number of people who think, oh, it's fine as it is, or we should actually have an even worse relationship. Because despite chagrin about some of Labour's Brexit positions, the one thing they're not holding back on at all is the need to work much more closely with the EU. There's no hesitation on that one. So this is going to be government policy for the foreseeable future now. And provided that people see the benefits as we do work more closely with our continental neighbours and allies, others should hopefully realise that building a massive wall between yourself and your continent is not really the best plan anyone ever had. What might have been interesting was if the poll explored what sort of closer cooperation respondents wanted. So you can't just assume it means all forms. I mean, maybe some of that 53% are just sick of the long queues to go on holiday. You know, perhaps people are seeing the link between trade barriers and less choice and higher prices in the shops. Hard to say because the poll was too limited to really tell. But there was another interesting result from this sort of poll, and it was on immigration. Now here, 51%, which admittedly is 1% less than a massive will of the people majority, but 51% of people wanted the government to issue more visas to foreign workers, with only 23% wanting fewer visas issued. Now, in terms of those who wanted the more visas, most of them were wanting it to be targeted at sectors with labour shortages, which is interesting for a couple of reasons. First, it indicates that we're still a long way off people getting back on board with the freedom of movement, which is an attitude which needs a lot more travel before we can even think of rejoining either the single market or the EU in general. But the second reason is that it shows that a slight majority, 1% less than will of the people, as I say, are not really about shooting themselves in the foot. The fact that it is only just above half is unfortunate, but as I said before we left the EU, the practical impacts of Brexit would in time outshine the ideological cause. So you can get the public to support all sorts of mad schemes when they don't see how it adversely affects them. But hardly anyone wants to actually suffer from an ideology. Those insisting, there are some insisting, those insisting that, oh, I knew what I was voting for. Oh, did you? Well, because all the Brexiteers are now saying you actually voted yourselves to be poorer, and that none of them said you would be richer out of it. It was all done for sovereignty. Yes, I knew that at the time, you see. I knew that I was voting to make myself poorer, but it was all worth it for the sovereignty. Those people are amplified on social media, but very few in number in the real world. By and large, the people still supporting Brexit will be those who are either unaware of the harm it's doing to themselves personally because that link is not obvious, or they accept that it's failing, but they think that different people in charge will turn things around. Nigel's right, you see, it's the people in charge that's the problem, you see. Now, that second group might be interesting, because as I see it, you could argue there are four groups of people that, you know, if you think that the problem with Brexit is just the people in charge, there are four groups that you might sort of align with that, you know, in theory have a plan for Brexit. See, there's the current Conservative Party leadership, but few of them think that they're getting it right. There's the extreme wing of the Conservative Party who complain that they're not getting the benefits because their meeker colleagues are refusing to let them dial up the crazy, like, for example, abolish all our regulations. The third one would be Reform UK and their supporters, including Nigel Farage, who insist that they've got a detailed plan and it would all work marvellously. Oh, it'd be superb. But almost everyone knows that they won't actually form a government. Now, this is not to say that they won't be able to attract any votes. See, if I were Reform UK come the election, and I'm quite sure they'll do this anyway, I would campaign on the basis of not trying to form a government. Everyone knows that's not going to happen. In fact, they're not even going to get an MP, although they won't admit that. I would campaign on the basis of sending a message to the Conservatives. See, if people expect the Conservatives to lose anyway, it's almost like you can be a bit freer with your vote. If you don't want a Labour government, if you'd rather have a Conservative government, but you know the Conservatives aren't going to win, you're a little bit freer to use your vote as a protest vote, which is not usual in a general election, but on this case it would work. So Reform UK could say, look, we've got the right ideas. Look, our ideas totally make sense, just like they did in 2016. By voting for us, you give the Conservative Party a lesson, you see. If we do well enough, they will be forced to look at our proposals seriously and decide that they need to adopt them if they want to get those votes back. That's the message you'll be sending them. I can see that working for them. But as their ideas are about as crazy as making someone like Liz Truss Prime Minister, it will ultimately fall flat as well. But I can see some Brexit believers going down that path. Oh yeah, the problem is the Conservatives are too meek. I'll vote Reform UK. That'll send a message to them. They'll make Suella Braverman. She sounds sensible. So they'll make Suella Braverman the leader. And they will come storming back to power. It'll all be marvellous. And the fourth and final option, of course, is to hope that Labour's Make Brexit Work means that they will somehow wangle the Brexit benefits that have eluded the actual Brexiteers in government, as opposed to just meaning make Britain a functioning state which will, like all functioning states, want to harmonise with our neighbours and allies. In other words, make Brexit work as a cautionary tale of what happens when you let your country be taken over by lunatics. But however Brexit supporters choose to split themselves up against what appears to be the four main options, very few of them will actually accept their lives being worse than without Brexit. Another result of the recent polling on the state of things produced this word cloud from people being asked to describe Britain in 2023. It is not exactly a message of appreciation for what the Conservatives done with their 13 years in power, is it? I actually tried to find some positive words, even if they were quite small. Woke was in there, but I have a sneaky suspicion that it was not intended positively. Optimistic's actually in there, quite small, although you may allude to the fact that it might be people thinking we're close to kicking the Tories out. That might be what the optimism's about. I really struggled to find anything which could be objectively said to give the Tories any succour. And when I say struggled, what I mean is found impossible. There was nothing in there that a Tory would look at and go, oh, we did a good job, didn't we? The country is broken. It has become more broken since Brexit. People can see this. Even if they think it's caused by other things, like COVID or the war in Ukraine, they cannot claim that Brexit made anything better. In fact, we saw from another recent poll, 9% think it's succeeded. We don't necessarily know that they thought it had made it better. The ideology has failed, as it always does. Only practical politics ever succeeds, because even if it's not like the best or what you think will be the best solutions, only practical politics succeeds because it's the only form of politics which is honest with people. And people need to be brought along with a new idea. Brexit's not honest. Those in politics and in the media can't be honest about it. And with each new passing year, we're going to hear more and more about the costs of Brexit. Not just the economic costs. They're sort of abstract to a lot of people. Oh, it's hit this amount of the economy. Has it? Has that hit me? No, they'll hear about the cost per household. We already are doing. But with each new year, oh, it's costing your household this much. And people can add it up each year. Whether it's in the form of depressed incomes, higher costs, higher taxes to pay for all the state aid needed to smooth things over. Recently, for example, we've got the news of a minimum of £500 million, which could actually be much more, potentially up to 800 million, that we're stumping up to get electric car sales built in the UK. Without Brexit, we'd have been able to compete for that investment without that level of state aid. And if we weren't successful, let's say Spain had won it anyway, wouldn't have been that big a deal. Would have been nice to have, not that big a deal, because we could just import the cells, build the cars and still sell the cars tariff-free. Each year that passes, the news will have to report on the higher cost of staples like food, for example, due to Brexit, the lower levels of inward investment, which has been evident ever since the referendum result, the queues to get out of the country at peak holiday times, the shortage of workers in key sectors. And with each passing year, it'll be harder to blame things on either COVID or the war in Ukraine, because they'll become a more distant memory with each new year, or even the competence of the government. See, the next Labour government, they may not find any Brexit benefits, but they will not be so easily dismissed as incompetent either. You know, what are people going to think, you know, when they see the NHS getting better, healthcare getting better, schools getting better, all the things getting better that get better when Labour come back in to fix the Tory mess? And what are they going to see when that government, who seems to be dealing with all the normal things, still can't find the Brexit benefits? You know, when people start to see that Brexit's a bit crap no matter who's in government. And I'm really looking forward to the time when Labour have done as much as they can to align with the EU, short of those 3 red lines of rejoining the EU or just the customs union or just the single market. You know, because people will be going, well, Brexit's still causing problems. Well, not much more we can do without crossing one of those red lines. And are the red lines really red lines for a public not interested in ideology if it makes their life harder? I don't think so. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.